Hey, what's up guys? Tony here, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tony. And in this episode we're going to be talking about my educational history. So, like I said in yesterday's video, I want to sort of chronicle a little bit of my educational path, because my path has not been the stereotypical path. It has not been like graduate from high school, go right to college, finish in 4 years, go get the big house, the degree, the wife, the children. That just hasn't been me. My path has been very rocky, actually. There's no real other way to put it. But the thing though is that in sort of retrospect now, when I look back at my 18-year-old self, I wasn't ready for school. I wasn't ready for anything, to be honest. I was actually a person. When I was 18, I was a person that wanted to do whatever made me happy. And if school wasn't it, then it wasn't in my life. Because I actually went to school right out of high school because that's what you do. You know, you be a good kid and you go to college right after high school. And unfortunately for me, it just wasn't a fit. Like I didn't like it. And so I ended up dropping out by first 2 semesters. You know, I went the first semester, had no success. And then the spring semester I came back and I tried. I think I passed one class my spring semester, and I dropped the other ones. I habitually dropped classes. That's just what I had done, and I just wasn't into it. I don't know why. I just wasn't into it. So I actually went out and I decided to work. You know, I worked full time for a couple years. And I was dating this one girl eventually. It was like in the summer of 2003. In that fall, I started dating this girl, and she liked me, but she didn't like where my life was, because from the fall of 2001 until the summer of 2003, so it was at like a year and a half or so. I got into street racing because we had a really big street racing scene here in San Diego in the early 2000s. You know, I worked at odd jobs. I was working at like a wheel store one time. I worked for this camera store. The longest job that I've had to date pretty much is this camera store that I worked at. I worked for a dealership as a parts driver for a little while. I worked for a fleet maintenance company, or a business that did fleet maintenance for postal vehicles. So I worked as a mechanic for a while. And so I had these I sort of bounced around. You know, I took classes at college for automotive technology, in like general maintenance and alignment and brakes. And I was going to go get my ASE certifications. You know, I was going to follow my grandfather's footsteps to become a mechanic. So that was me. Like I was just like, I didn't really, to be honest, like I didn't really want to be a mechanic. I mean, I respected a guy who was a mechanic who I used to race with. That's really what it boiled down to, is I had a lot of respect for this guy because he knew what he was talking about. Like, all of us, you know, we thought we were these gearheads. You know, we're just like, yeah, we know what we're talking about. We're talking about turbos, and we're going to talk about nitrous, and we're going to talk about engines, and we knew stuff, you know, but we weren't master technicians like this guy was, and he was the master technician of our group. And so I really looked up to that guy. But the funny thing is like, in retrospect, I was doing everything I wanted to do because it associated with racing, with this one thing that I wanted to do. I didn't want to become a mechanic just for the sake of becoming a mechanic. Now, I mean, in retrospect, I look at them like, I think those are good skills that I learned, but that wasn't the path that I eventually wanted to go down. So yeah, anyways, I had this girlfriend that I really liked. And so I was sort of given this ultimatum, I guess. You know, she was really into education. I mean, she had her plan of her life down. I mean, she was like, I'm going to graduate from college in this year. I'm going to get my master's degree this year. And I'm going to get my PhD this year. You know, and she had it on the refrigerator. And it's just like, okay, I don't even know what I'm going to have for lunch today. And you've planned out the next 10 years of your life. And so that was what it was. I was dealing with this powerful force in her. And she was just so pro-education, and I was just so lackluster, just like, meh, about education. It wasn't really my thing. But I really liked this girl, so I decided to give education a shot again. And I went back to school, and we took classes together, and I found ways to drop those classes. So I just couldn't get it. I mean, this was like in probably I would say the spring of 2004. Anyways, so to backtrack a little bit, when I was right out of high school, I was accepted to go to Brooks Institute of Photography because I had done photography in high school. was part of the yearbook staff, was part of the journalism staff, and I really enjoyed photography. And I won a handful of awards, excuse me, in our county fair. And so I was acclaimed, I guess, as a high school, senior. I had won some accolades, and I felt really proud of that. And so I really wanted to do photography. To be honest, I just didn't have the balls to go out and do it. And so this girl was like, "Hey, look, you're really good at photography. You really love photography. Maybe you should go to this school." And so I reapplied because I was accepted in 2001. I reapplied in 2004, and I got accepted again. And I decided to go up and do this program. And it was a terribly expensive program. It was a 3-year-long, full-time. It was really intense, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about me more than anything else. I mean, I learned a lot about photography, don't get me wrong, but I learned more about me and the kind of man that I want to be and the kind of guy that I was and where I'd like to be. And I was living on my own. Well, I mean, I had roommates, but I mean, like, we were all these Brooks students living together, but we had our own place, and it was a great time. It was like probably what I really needed, because before that I didn't really have any sort of discipline. I didn't really have any structure, which is really ironic because I come from a military family where my dad was always harping us about initiative and discipline and all this stuff. And I guess maybe that's why I resented it. I was just like, you were always on us about initiative. That was he was take the initiative. I'm like, God, I'm 16. I don't want to take anything. I just want to go buy CDs or video games or something. It's like, I'm not a soldier, I'm not a Marine. And he kind of treated us like Marines at times. But anyways, so I think maybe that's why I had a hard time, like taking off, like failure to launch sort of thing. And so when I was living in Santa Barbara, I remember I'd call my dad sometimes, and I'd be like, Dad, I realize now the things that you were talking about when we were kids, because there was a Sunday where one of my roommates was a slob, and he used to sleep on the couch, and it was really disgusting. But it was the apartment was just gross. Like, the dishes had piled up, the kitchen was filthy, and so I pulled a card right out of my dad's old playbook, or play right out of my dad's playbook, and turned on Metallica Black Album. And I started cleaning the kitchen. And the way our living room was set up was like, it was a long living room with the kitchen on the end. So the front door, the living room area, kitchen on the end, and then there was a hallway that led to the back 2 bedrooms and the 1.5 bath that we shared. And so I started playing the Black Album. This guy, Travis, was sleeping on the couch, and I just was playing it loud, because it was probably like 11 o'clock, noon or something like that. I don't remember exactly what time it was. But I was just like, this place is disgusting. Like, we need to clean this place up. So, like, I started doing the dishes. My other roommate, Chris, this really cool dude, he started taking out the trash and stuff. And so the Travis was like, why is it so loud? And told him, like, we got to clean this place up, man. It stinks. It's gross. And so we cleaned up the apartment, and it felt great. And I was like, that's it. Like, and so I learned these life lessons about, like, what it is that I'm looking for. And so, like, to go back, I called my dad. And I was like, I get it. I understand what you're talking about. Like, and I told him this story I just told you guys. And so I think he was kind of proud, because I mean, hell, it was, a little late in the game. Not really, I guess. But I mean, he would have liked it if we learned those life lessons when we were younger and not when we were out living our own. But that's just the way it was for me. And I don't know if that's the way it is for a lot of people. But, so you can tell me something about like a life lesson, and some people take that and they're like, okay, I'm going to avoid that because that guy had a really awful time. Another person like myself, I'll absorb what you're saying, but I really need to fail on my own before I get it. And it's definitely it's a stubborn thing. I'm just really stubborn. In the late summer of 2007, I was done with my photo program, and so I actually moved back home with my parents. And so I had this a mountain of student loan debt over my shoulders, and I didn't want to pay it off. Like, I didn't have a prospect for a good job, because I went to a photo school. There's not, like, when you get done with a photo school, there's not much you can do besides photography. And I gave it the old college try. I really did. But the business aspect of it is like, turned me off. I didn't want to deal with the business aspect of photography. I just wanted to deal with the photography part of photography. And so I just couldn't get a good, successful photo studio off the ground. I have a website and I had all stuff. I did all the things that I thought I had to do to be successful. I just couldn't manage the business side of it. I just didn't like it. So I stopped. I was just like, okay, no, I'm gonna stop. So then I went back to school. I went back to the school that I now graduated from, my community college it is. And so here's the thing though, is like when I was younger and going to school, I just didn't have the drive, because I just was too young. I didn't know anything. I didn't have any life experiences. I was bored with school, and I didn't really I just wasn't interested. Yeah, but really that's what it boils down to. I wasn't interested. But when I was 24 in 2007 and going back to school, I realized that school, like, it's a doorway. It really is a doorway to get you places. You know, not only are you learning about subject matter, but what you're really learning are other skills, like writing skills, critical thinking skills, math skills if you're so inclined. I'm terrible at math. I'm just like so terrible at math. It's not even funny. I mean, I did my requirement in Math 100. Boom, bam, done. College algebra, nailed it. But it wasn't easy. But here's the point of me bringing that up, is that when I was first in school, I just didn't have any discipline. I didn't have any time management skills. I didn't have any experiences at all that would make me successful as a student and as an individual. And after working, full time in the work a day world, I'd gained a new perspective on school. So that experience, plus going to Brooks and learning these time management skills, like we would have an assignment due in a week's time, and we would have to conceptualize, produce, shoot, and edit this assignment that had to be industry level quality. And so you really had to work on time management to get all your ducks in a row to get your assignment done on time and submitted on time. And so I took all those things, and when I went back to school, I was suddenly successful. And so I was looking at the school in retrospect now, and when I went to like the first semester in 2007, I was like, holy crap, this is easy. Like, I have 3 weeks or 3 months or whatever it was. Like, I can probably like 3 or 4 weeks to write a paper. What? That's easy. I could do that, and it's only 2 pages. Come on, I could do that like in an hour or two. And so it was that new perspective that I really appreciated, because that suddenly appreciated school, because before I thought it was difficult and boring and whatever, and then as a 24-year-old I was like, this is essential. I really need to get this stuff done, and it helped me get through school. But what I'm gonna say now is that's just sort of my past in brief. So if I may be so bold, what I'd like to do now is impart a little bit of advice to you guys who might be either having a hard time with school or having a hard time with the prospect of going to college, and that is this. What made me a successful student was the fact that I actually walked back into college, and I baby stepped it. The first time I got back into college with my girlfriend, I had a reason to do it, because I had a girlfriend and I wanted to have sex, and she liked having sex with me, but only if I would go back to school. I mean, that's not it's not exactly how it went down, but I wanted to be with this girl, and so I felt this need to change who I was to be with this girl, and so I was inspired to go back to school that way. But it wasn't a true inspiration. It didn't stick, obviously, since I ended up dropping those classes. But the thing that really got me into school was I took classes that I actually wanted to take, and I didn't take math and science and biology and whatever. I actually walked into college when I moved back to my parents' house in 2007. I decided that I had always wanted to get into theater arts, and I had dabbled a little bit in theater when I was living up in Santa Barbara, just sort of on the side. And so I opted to take theater classes and one academic class. So I take like 2 or 3 theater classes and an academic class. And each semester that went by that I successfully completed, and I took more and more academic classes. And so like the first semester I took like history, the World War II generation, and like theater arts 1 and some other stuff. So I took more theater classes than academic classes. And then the next semester I took like 2 academic classes and 2 theater classes. And it got down to the point where I was actually taking less theater classes because I had already taken them all, and I was taking more academic classes. And then it got to the point where I was taking no theater classes and all academic classes. And then that's when I graduated. I got my first degree in 2010, and it was a degree in theater arts because I'd completed the program. And that was in the fall of, was that the fall 2000? Yeah, it was in the fall 2010. My spring of fall of 2009. Wow, it's been that long. So the spring of 2009, I got my first degree in theater arts, and then the spring of 2010, before I transferred, I actually had 3 more associate's degrees. 2 of them were GEs. They just sort of threw them at me. The other one was in social behavioral sciences. And so I actually had worked my butt off the last 2 semesters to get that second associate's degree. I was like, I want to get the second one. And I actually ended up walking away with 4 associate's degrees and 5 semesters at a junior college. And so I'm really proud of that. And that's really my advice to you guys. If you find yourself in a position where you're having a hard time with school, go because you want to go. That's really the one of the biggest things. Go to college because you want to go to college, because you have a reason to be there, not because your parents want you to be there, or not because society says you have to be there. Be there because you want to be there, because you're going to get the most out of it. And if that means you have to go back to college at 22, 23, 24, 25, 55, 65, doesn't matter. Go because you want to go. And when you're there, if you're like me and you have a hard time being interested in school, take classes that you want to take first. Say if you want to learn, I don't know, like community colleges are great in this way because you can just go take whatever. You don't have to worry about prereqs. You know, you can go take, you want to learn how to sing, go take a music class, you know, singing class. You want to learn theater arts, go take theater arts. You want to learn, I don't know, auto shop, wood. You know, there's a lot of trades. They offer a lot of trades at community colleges, but they also offer a lot of entry-level classes for, you know, writing and math and languages and like astronomy. I love astronomy. I really wish I had the math background to be an astronomer. I really wanted to be an astronomer when I first got back into college. I was like, I want to do this so bad. I just suck at math. I just do not have the math skills. But that's what I would say. Go to school because you want to. And if you have a hard time, just baby step your way back into school. It's really, my approach is sort of the baby step way. You know, do it in a fun way. Make it fun, and make yourself want to go to class every day. Don't get yourself bogged down with the mundane classes that you know you're gonna hate. I mean, you're gonna have to take them eventually if you really want to get through it. But make sure it's a good balance. And I mean, that's with everything in life. You know, moderation is a big key in life. You know, so that's really the takeaway from this. You know, is that for me, getting back into school was a long process. I'm glad that I did it. And if that's the advice that I can impart on someone who's a graduating high school senior right now, or somebody who's struggling with school, like, I don't know if I want to stay in. It's just, if you don't want to be there, then don't be there. But if you have the desire to be in college, just make sure that you're there because you want to be there, and make sure that you go every day. And if you have to, make your academic schedule unbalanced with, you know, fun classes. And then, you know, slowly as you get used to the college experience, then start adding on the heavy classes, the heavy required classes. That's really what I can give you right there. So I hope this was helpful, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll talk to you guys later.